Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sisterly. Happy 2022. We're so glad to be back with you after our little hiatus for the holidays.
Woo
Um,
woo.
we hope that you had a nice, relaxing, peaceful break or part of a break at least.
Yeah, clearly Rebecca and I took our sweet time having a break, getting back on here.
We did. We did. You know
I
what? It
have
was needed.
It was needed. Also, I went home to Connecticut. That's where Rebecca and I grew up. I feel like we've already talked about this, but just in case you didn't know that, that's where we grew up was Connecticut. So I went back home to Connecticut for like 2 weeks, which was actually pretty long
Hmm.
for me. And Rebecca was like in and out as well, just because you had a lot of holiday plans. But it's kind of hard to record when I was at home because my brothers make a lot of noise. Love them to death. They
Yeah.
make a lot of noise. Like
And there were
you
the
just,
dogs. Like, there's too much movement, too
they
much
also
going
always have
on.
friends over. I'm like, how do you have so
I
many
know.
friends?
Every day they're like, yeah, so and so and so and so is coming over, and then we're doing this, and then we're doing that. I'm like, I do not have
They
these many
also just
plans.
appear. Like one day, our brother Will, he's the 16-year-old. He's just like, yeah, my friends are coming over. We're gonna watch 8 Mile. Like, okay, like it was just so random. 8 Mile came out so long ago. Like, I just felt like a weird gathering to have, but like whatever. And he had like five friends over to just watch 8 Mile, and then they walked to Five Guys. Whatever. This is too much granular detail, but I just like, I don't know why it felt weird to me. I feel like maybe when I was in high school, I guess I just didn't have that much like chutzpah to just be like, all my friends are coming over and this is what we're doing, everyone.
Yeah.
Like your plans be damned. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like it
uh,
also just didn't occur to us to just like blow up our parents' afternoon to be like, by the way, 5 friends are coming over. Please prepare food for all of us,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
we will be hanging out and ignoring you all day. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
don't feel like that
I'm
was an option for us.
no. It's like I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna take your credit card and I'm gonna go to Five Guys with all my friends and we're all gonna get dinner and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna watch 8 Mile. Like
Yeah.
anyway. Clearly I should have. I was not
Yeah.
utilizing my resources enough. But yeah, so anywho, that's why it was just like a little challenging to record. I also didn't have like my microphone, whatever. But it was also nice. It was just nice to have a couple weeks to really be at home, relax. Jack and I were supposed to go to New York City for a few days. We ended up not doing that because Omicron is here and
Is very much with us.
she's very much with us. So we didn't end up going to New York. So we had like all of this time. Like it felt like it was gonna be such a fast trip because it's like we're going to Connecticut, then we're going to New York, then we're coming back to Connecticut, then we have to work. Like then we fly home. And it ended up just being 2 weeks that were pretty chill, which was nice. Um, I just had some days where I was like, what am I gonna do today? Nothing. Fabulous. Like
It's nice to
loved
just have that actual rest. I feel like when you
yeah.
get the weekend now, it's like you spent half, maybe more than half of the time, like doing errands, cleaning the
Mhm.
house, doing just like random tasks that you like have neglected all week. And to have just a chunk of time off to actually sit around, do nothing, read a book.
Totally. And
Amazing.
it's really hard for me to do that a lot when I'm in my own home because I think of all the things that I should be doing instead that are more
True.
productive.
If you're in another person's space, it's like I can't clean. Or I mean you could, but it's like this isn't my house. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
tidy.
Yeah, like this week has gone to shit. So, happy 2022. We're gonna get into this later, but this year, not my year. Um, but we
9 days
basically
in, already declared it.
9 days
Not
in,
Olivia's here.
not my year, not my day, my week, my month, or my year. But we got home from Connecticut and Jack got COVID, so that's been super fun. He has COVID. I do not have COVID. So that's been interesting. We're trying to isolate in like a 600 square foot apartment. So as you can imagine, that's been interesting to say the least. Our animals are so confused. They don't know what's happening. They're like, why are you guys like separated? Our dog is like, why am I not sleeping in my bed like I normally do? He's like, why am I on the
Oh.
couch like a peasant? Um, so that's been super interesting. But I don't have to quarantine necessarily because I don't have COVID, or at least I keep testing negative for it. But I'm kind of doing it just in case because also everyone has Omicron, so there's nowhere to really go instead.
Yep.
Um, but it's hard for me to, like, be here and not do anything. I keep being like, "I should clean the apartment," and then it's like, "No, but I really shouldn't be, like, out about in the apartment, like, there's a reason we're isolating, like, I'm supposed to kinda stay in my room," and then I'm like, "I should dust," and it's like, "I don't really wanna dust. I don't really want to. I wanna just kinda sit here and read my book and watch the Harry Potter reunion," and then I'm like, "But I'm lazy." So anywho, um, it's just like a disaster. I'm a disaster. Rebecca and I were talking about this when we started the episode, like, I'm in, like, a very hyper state right now, and I think it's for a few reasons. 1, I'm caffeinated, so that'll do it.
That'll help.
2 yeah, 2, I haven't heard the sound of my own voice as much as I normally do, because normally I talk to Jack 80 times a day, but I can't really do that right now. I mean, we still are, like, texting and, like, shouting through the doors a couple times a day, but normally I,
Yeah,
like,
but a
go
little
in and I'm
less
like,
chit chat.
"What's up? Like, how's it going?" Like, all of that. Haven't been doing that. Work's been, like, pretty relaxed, so even during the workday, I'm, like, just sitting here, like, "All right, like, what's nothing's going on." I'm not really going outside much, um, and I've been reading, which you're like, "That doesn't make any sense. Why is reading getting you in a hyper state?" Let me tell you.
Let us explain.
Let me explain. I love to read. I don't read very often, and here is why. I get incredibly emotionally invested into books.
Especially
So,
series.
especially series, don't even get me started with series. So, when I start a book, if it's a good book, I will not put it down until it's done. So, for example, I started a book yesterday. It was about 375 pages. I finished it in one day because I sat down, I opened the book, I read it until it was done. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't do anything else. I didn't eat until like 9:30 p.m. because I wasn't hungry because I was so emotionally captivated by this book. I couldn't put it down. And this is the third book I've read in 2022. So, 3 books in 9 days, and that's also me working a full week. So, anywho, I've been doing a lot of reading, and I'm just, like, so emotionally wrapped up in these books, and I have so many feelings about these books that I can't really luckily, Rebecca has read 2 of the 3 books that I've read, so I can express my feelings to her about these books, but I'm just like, I couldn't write a book about the book, and, so yeah, it's just I'm
Yeah,
feeling a
that
little
plus we both saw Spider-Man:
oh
No Way
god.
Home, and don't worry, there will be no spoilers
No
about the movie.
spoilers. I would never.
'Twas amazing. Go see it. However, it has reignited our deep love for Tom Holland and our deep love for Tom Holland's love for Zendaya.
Yeah. Here's the thing, I've loved Zendaya for a long time, like, that's been there. Love her, she's
She's an
iconic.
icon, yeah.
I'm used to the love for her. I was sleeping on Tom Holland. I was sleeping on him. I always thought he was cute, but kind of in, like he's my age, so kind of in, like, "Oh, like, he seems really sweet, he seems like a nice guy," like, almost like I'm like a brother love. Like, I know him. I don't know him
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
We have no kinship. Um But then I saw Spider-Man 3, my world was flipped upside down. I'm like, "This man, I've been sleeping on him. He is a hot man, and I didn't know it, and now I see it, and I can't unsee it, and now I'm
We both spent a
obsessed with
lot of
him."
time watching interviews of him and Zendaya
Yeah,
because their dynamic is really cute.
because they're in love, if you didn't know that. One of my friends didn't know that yesterday, and I've, rocked her
Yeah.
world by letting her know that they're in love.
PSA, they're in love.
They're in love,
It's
and
beautiful.
there's
It's
nothing that
wholesome.
yeah. There's nothing that makes a man more attractive than when he's just, like, incredibly in love with his partner. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And you're
Mhm.
just like, "Wow, you're an icon," which sometimes I think is funny because I'm like, "Wow, our standards are so low sometimes." Like, there's this clip of Tom Holland and Zendaya, and they're on the red carpet for the premiere, and Zendaya goes to, like, fix her dress. Like, I think she's a little worried she has maybe, like, a nip slip or, like, a boob leakage
Yeah, yeah.
situation. So she goes to, like, adjust her dress, and he goes and he stands in front of her so
To
that she
block
can
her
have
from the photographers.
yeah, so she can have a moment of privacy from the photographers, and when I tell you I swooned so hard, and, like,
I watched that clip like 5 times in a row.
Yeah. So many times. I can visualize the whole thing in my head. And it's like my standards are so low.
For
Like
just men
for
generally.
men in general. Like he just stood in front of her so she could have a moment of privacy. That's 100% something Jack would do for me. That's something I'd do for my friend. That's something my friend would do for me. Like it's a very nice gesture. It's not that big of a deal. And yet I saw this clip and I was like, "Oh my god." It's like he loves her. Like
I know. It's so beautiful.
yeah, so
Just a sigh for Tom Holland. Okay.
aside for Tom Holland, aside for
His love for Zendaya.
his love for Zendaya, just for the emotional state that I'm in. Rebecca and I also have had like a state of the giggles this morning. Like we just
Yeah.
also we watched the Harry Potter reunion.
Yeah.
If you
And to
haven't
just
watched
just the
that,
confirmation and validation to know that Emma Watson and Tom Felton have in fact loved each other all of this time and had crushes on each other while they were filming the movies. I just
yep,
wasn't ready for it, but I'm really
yep.
glad to have that confirmation.
If you haven't watched it, go watch it and watch the way that they talk about each other. The way that they talk about each other. I was saying to Rebecca, if I was like one of their significant others and I heard them talking about each other this way, I'd be like, so you're in love with someone else? And this is where our relationship ends.
I think they are both
Because
single.
they should be together.
I
But
know
they're
they
both on
should
their
be.
own incredible journeys, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm like, do what you need to do, but like, don't let this be a La La Land situation. Like, end up together in
Yeah.
the end. Why don't ya?
Yeah. Like
Wait,
you
speaking of La La Land situations, I have to
oh.
tell you about this clip I watched the other day. It probably came up because I was like looking so deep into like Tom Holland clips, but I found this like clip on TikTok that like rocked my world, and basically it was like Emma Stone was on stage accepting her Oscar for La La Land for
Uh-huh.
like best actress or whatever, and the camera shows Andrew Garfield in the freaking front row, and he's looking at her and she smiles at him, and then she just kind of like laughs and then covers her mouth and like looks really sad because it's like they're like literally real life La La Land. Doesn't that cut you so deep? I need to
Yep.
send you this clip.
Send me the clip. I'm welling up. Just
Because it's literally like she's on stage, like she's made it. She like she's gotten her Oscar, but in the meantime they broke up and now she's married to somebody else. And he was just like there in the
and has a
audience
baby with
watching.
them.
Yeah, and he was just like in the audience watching her, like proud, like you could tell he like was proud of her, but I was just like so deeply sad that
Yeah, you need to
moment.
send me that clip so I can have a good cry.
Oh, yeah. Anywho, I've been on YouTube too
I
much, but
I hope for your sake, and by your I mean listeners, that you don't have the problems that Rebecca and I have.
get way too invested in books and also celebrity couples we do not know and will never know, but we're very invested in their love.
And we've always been like this
Yeah, this
since we
isn't
were
new.
little,
This is
and
not new.
I don't think it's gonna go away. I would have thought that maybe with
I would have
age,
thought I'm almost
maturity.
30 that I would have grown out of it, but apparently not.
Nope.
So here we are, which has led us to conclude that at a future episode we should just do a deep dive of our childhood celeb crushes
Mhm.
and
And also real life crushes.
real life crushes and just like childhood teen obsessions
Yeah.
because there's a lot of content there. So
Yeah. There's so
tell
much
us
to
if you would want to
say.
hear about that or if that has zero interest for you and is just of interest to me and Olivia.
Yeah, watch people be like, "No, I don't wanna hear about that." Like,
no
it's
one
so
no one
uninteresting to me.
cares.
Um, wow, yeah, and there's different like, I could go in phases. Phase 1, 7th grade, Joe Jonas.
Oh my god, we have an episode just on the Jonas Brothers for real.
Joe Jonas is still, like, in my top
Yeah, he's
3
still up
celebrity
there.
crushes. I think right now, my top 2 celebrity crushes have to be, like, Tom Holland and Joe Jonas.
I respect it.
Joe Jonas has always been up there for me, except for when he went on his, like, weird shave my head, I'm a solo artist, kind of doing reggae music vibe. Like, that vibe I
Mm,
kinda didn't get, but now he's in his, like, muscle tees, painted nails, married to a queen era,
yeah, we love
and
this era of Joe
I
Jonas.
love that for him and for me and for every other woman who gets to experience it. So anywho, we're gonna wrap up on that.
We'll try to get back on topic, why don't
And by
we?
that, I mean 15 minutes of us talking about absolutely nothing. And I also want to preface it that not only did we talk about this for the first 15 minutes of the podcast, we also talked about it for about an hour before we even started recording.
Yes.
So
So you're really only getting the tail end, the wrap up of this hour-long rant Olivia and I have just had,
I
so
feel like after this we record, I'm gonna like crash because my energy levels are just so high right now.
no more caffeine for you today. You're
I've
done.
had 1 cup of coffee, like and that's really what I can only drink 1 cup of coffee a
Me
day
too.
because this
I
is
get
what
shaky.
happens. At least I have an outlet for it today, which is just screaming into my microphone. So you're welcome, listeners. You're welcome for this. Okay, so we recapped the holidays briefly and then just talked about other random stuff. But now we kind of wanted to use this episode. We know it's like a little bit mid-January. Sorry about that, but we did want to wrap up 2021 a little bit and talk about, what we're looking
Goals.
forward to in the new year. I had high hopes. They've been crushed in the first 9 days.
It's fine, we're pivoting, we're
We
readjusting.
pivot and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about our own goals for 2022 and then also like some goals that we have for the podcast that also, involve you all who listen. So yeah, excited to jump into that.
Yeah, so talking about just sort of sisterly in 2021, um, I feel like it was an exciting year for it. Like we launched the podcast at the end of August after having like thought about it, prepared for it, like recorded things, re-recorded things for like months beforehand. Um and it was like quite the emotional thing to actually put it out there, and I feel like there was like a lot of feelings beforehand of just like excitement but also a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of
Totally.
like this is very vulnerable putting it out there, like we're putting out our own thoughts, our own opinions, our faces, like how is that going to be received? Are people going to think that we're just like really silly, or like no one's going to listen whatsoever or have any thoughts on what we're doing? um
Yeah, I definitely thought many times like maybe we should just not.
yeah, maybe we just scrap the whole
Like it
thing.
would be easier to not, which it would
Yeah,
have. It would have
it
been
would have been.
easier to say no
Been less
thanks.
time, less,
Yeah.
like, anxiety, less emotional vulnerability.
Yeah, but I think then we did release it and it just went over so much better than I ever
Yeah.
thought. I mean,
I don't know, I think I had almost no expectations because I was just
yeah,
like, "This could be literally nobody listens, and then it's just, like, us talking to each other and whatever, like, that was fun times, like, but
totally.
that's
I thought we would have like one listener. I
yeah.
thought like Jack would listen
Yeah.
and
No, I thought, like, Jack and Mike would listen and, like,
yeah,
maybe a friend or a relative would be like, "Oh, yeah, I listened to a couple. They were cute," or something like
yeah.
that.
And like I'm not out here saying that we have thousands of listeners by any means. I'm not like, yeah, top 10 podcast.
Yeah.
But I think obviously our goal was never to start a podcast and be like podcast famous. It was just to start a podcast and have it
Run with
make
it.
any type of impact on someone. And I think we've been able to achieve that goal, which is really exciting. I mean, I just wanted to make someone laugh. I wanted to make someone feel heard, to feel like that cozy feeling of being with friends. And we've gotten that feedback, and that's really all we could have ever asked for.
Yeah, the best feedback we've gotten, and we've gotten it now from like several people, which is so
Humble
nice.
brag.
Yeah, sorry, humble brag. But just like I just mean this so genuinely. Like people have said, like, oh, when I listen to your podcast, I feel like we're like all hanging out. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
hanging out with you guys, and you guys are my sisters or my friends, and we're just like having fun together, and I don't feel alone while I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing. And that just makes me feel so good. Like I want people to feel like they're hanging out with us or having a conversation with us, and that we're like bringing you into our sisterhood.
totally. And I think too, like then there was this point we released the podcast, and the first few episodes I think had more listens than some of our following ones, just
Mhm.
because
They're
it
brand
was like the
new.
first thing we put out. I'm sure there were like random people that we don't even talk to that often who were like, oh, I'm gonna listen and just like see what's up, but didn't necessarily stick with it. And so there was this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, do I need to be doing all of these things to keep the growth going? Are we not putting out like topics that everyone wants to listen to? And then there was, like, that anxiety, and it kinda subsided with the feedback that we got from the people who are listening consistently,
Mhm.
or, the 1 or 2 random people who I've never spoken to before who are like, "I listened to your podcast and I really enjoyed it," and just remembering that that was the intention the whole time, was just making an impact for one person, um, and also, not even that, but also just the 2 of us feeling like the conversations we were having were worth it for the both of us, and
Mhm.
brought joy to our own lives, and that's what it's done these past, several months that we've been doing this, and I think that's just really exciting, and, um,
Yeah.
I'm so
Like,
happy we did it.
I know, me too. I'm so happy we did it. Like, I love the conversations we have. I'm, like, proud of the episodes, like, we put out there, and I honestly feel like they help me. Like, when we sit around and, like, think about what we wanna talk about and just, like, then have these conversations as we, like, think about things, like, I honestly feel like it helps me process my own feelings sometimes to be like, "Let me just sit down and reflect on a topic today," which, like, I don't
Totally.
normally sit around and make time for, that I really like it.
I feel like it's almost a live journal sometimes,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
which is funny because I think I've talked about on the podcast before how I'm horrible at journaling.
Yep.
Not good at it. It stresses me out. I'll write one entry and then I won't write one for like 6 more months, and then I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so inconsistent." Like, never gonna do it again. And I feel like with this, it's almost like a different type of journaling too, because it's not like, "Today I
Yeah.
dot, dot, dot."
Yeah.
It's like prompted of like, "What are we gonna talk about today? What are we gonna dive into?" And I don't know, I really like that. And I do feel like it's healing in some ways too. I don't think every episode we've necessarily talked about something that I've felt like I needed to heal or like get through something, but there have been a couple where I was like, wow, I really think that speaking about it out loud, obviously with Rebecca, but then also just with other people who then, will write back
Mhm.
to us about it, really made an impact.
Yeah, especially if we talk about something that felt, like, hard or embarrassing or whatever, and then someone was like, "Oh my gosh, I felt the same way," or "I had a similar
Yeah,
situation," or "That was so relatable." It's like, "Oh, wow," like, people feel the exact like, we're not weird or, like, this experience is not that unique, like, other people have the same things.
totally. Or have, talking about really embarrassing experiences with like guys when I was like trying to figure that all out. And those used to be memories that brought up a lot of like shame or embarrassment, and then talking about them and laughing about them on the podcast and then having people talk to me about it, it just like it really helped with that. Like I don't really
Mhm.
feel this like shame anymore. It's just
Yeah.
one of those experiences that a lot of people go through and you move through it. So I don't know. I think, and I hope that those listening have felt like they've been able to do that too. I would love to engage with you all. We would both love to engage with
Yeah.
you all more on your own stories too, and just talk with you about them. And um, one of my friends said recently, she texted me. I don't even know if I told you this, Rebecca. She texted me that we're like her surrogate sisters,
Oh, I
that she's
love
so
that.
happy she has us as her surrogate sisters. And I
Oh.
just thought that was so wonderful because that's been the goal all
Yeah,
along.
totally. Oh, I love that
Um,
so much.
yeah, so that's, who we want to be for anyone listening. Um, so yeah, I think another milestone that was really cool was one of our episodes, the late bloomers episode. If you haven't listened to it, got to over 100 listens, which was really cool for us.
Yeah,
Like,
we were just very surprised that
yeah,
and also, like, just of all of our episodes, it's the most popular one, and when we were doing it, we didn't have any sort of, like, intention for it to be really popular or anything, but people seem to really relate to that one, and I think it's such a funny episode, like, I think you tell such good stories in it, and people just we're talking about things like, middle and high school dances and whatever. And I just think so many people can relate to those like awkward moments that it was really nice to see people's response to that one.
totally. It's also crazy too, like when you think about 100 people listening, in the terms of like grand scheme of podcast listening, I'm sure there are people that get millions of listens on their episodes, but I just kept thinking of being like, imagine if we were in a room with 100 people who like
Yeah.
heard
Who
us
listened.
tell that. And it's so crazy to think of
Yeah.
like 100 people hearing our story and listening to it. And I don't know, it was like very powerful for me to just be like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
really cool that,
That's
you
just
know,
yeah, way more listens to an episode than I thought we would get for sure, especially when
yeah,
that was, like, one of our earlier episodes too.
totally, totally. And it's all been downhill from there. We peaked. um, but in total, I mean, in 2021, we put out 17 episodes, which is when we started in August. I feel like if it was like 17 episodes in the whole year, it's like that's a
Yeah, yeah,
lot
it
of
hasn't been, like,
episodes.
a full year of actually the podcast,
But yeah, and basically 4 months we put out 17 episodes, which was really cool. You know, we stayed consistent, putting out an episode a week, um, which was really I don't know that felt like a big hurdle sometimes for two people who work full-time jobs.
Mhm.
Rebecca especially works crazy hours at her job, like works a
We also have
ton.
a time difference.
We also have a time difference. I also had like the busiest 4 months ever
Yeah.
for like no reason, but we still did it. You know, we still sat down and recorded. And I think sometimes even when we didn't want to, not because we didn't want to have these conversations, but it's so easy to put something off
Mhm.
and to think that something else is more important. But the fact that we just showed up every week and we did it is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Every time we ended up even if we were, like, really busy or we were, like, cramming in a recording afterwards, I was, like, always so glad that we did it and how it turned
Totally.
out, and I was very glad that we also didn't put out anything that I felt, like, bad about or embarrassed about or, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that wasn't what we really wanted to talk about." Like, there were some times, like, we recorded, ahead of time before we launched the podcast, and then we just sort of were like, no, like, that's not quite right. Like, that's
Hmm.
not saying what we wanted it to say or whatever, and I think I'm just glad that we've, like, chosen to put out things that we, like, actually care about and feel really good about and not just put things out just to have it out there.
Agreed. Yeah. No, they've all been things we can look back on and, be proud of, which is really important to us. And I know we have here like listed some of our favorite um episodes. I don't know if you want to go first, Rebecca. Mine are mainly the same as yours.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so one of my favorites is definitely Late Bloomers because it honestly makes me laugh so much. Like, Olivia is so funny in it. And I also really like the mental health episode, especially because I've gotten feedback from that, but people, saying that they really liked it or that it made them feel more open about things or less just like stressed thinking about their own mental health or like how to take care of it. Um, I really liked talking about the taking risks episode because I just feel like that's such an area that I'm like I was honest in the podcast. Like, I'm still very much working on like figuring out what I want, going after it, all those things. And that was a fun one to record. And then my other favorite is the red light, green light episode because that was fun to do. And also we just got so many great like suggestions from people on our Instagram. And I loved like hearing people's thoughts and like incorporating that and engaging with people.
Totally. I loved all of those episodes. I would say I love the mental health one, and I want to do more episodes about mental health because you could talk. I mean, their podcast literally just about mental health. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could
It's not
talk
just
about that
one
forever.
episode.
I thought that one was really powerful. I think that was one that I felt really anxious about, and I didn't even realize it just because I would consider myself a very open person. Like if someone asks me anything, I will pretty much share, but I don't really like to offer up information about my own mental health a lot just because I don't know. I think a lot of times it feels like a weakness. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling. Um, but putting that out there and then, a friend reached out to me and just thanked me for being vulnerable. And that was really powerful just to have
Mhm.
someone thank me for that when it did feel hard to do. So um, I would I would really love to talk more about that because I think it's just good for me to continue to share. Um, I also loved our red light, green light episode just because I love talking about things that the people who listen to us want to talk about. I mean, that's
Mhm.
obviously why we do it. So I just encourage anyone listening to continue to share with us, even unprompted, things that they want us to talk about because that's
Yeah.
what really interests or
And
yeah, I guess really interests us.
also, like, people can feel free to DM us and we can, like, keep it anonymous. We don't have to
Oh,
say,
totally.
who told us what or asked us what. We just love getting any sort of, like, feedback or suggestions or topics to
Yeah,
talk about.
agreed. And then I think finally, my last favorite one was our episode that was about appreciation for lost friendships. Just because I consider myself a very good friend. That's something I really care about is being a good friend. And so when I've lost friends in the past, and I feel like the way I'm saying this, like I'm talking about like death. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about like when friendships end. Um, it's been really hard for me to kind of deal with that, and I felt like that episode was really healing for me to just kind of talk through it, talk about both sides, not just from the perspective of someone who felt like a friend kind of dipped out on them, but also thinking about why
When you
you would
weren't the
leave a
best.
friendship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, why that might have been a valid reason for them to end our friendship, and forgiving myself for that too. 'Cause I think that's really hard for me, so I really liked, uh, recording that episode.
Yeah, I like that one too. So yeah, so thinking about the end of the year and the beginning of a new one is sort of like a great time to reflect and think about, you know, areas of growth, like goals for the new year. And I want to be clear that we don't subscribe to like new year, new you. Like nothing is wrong with you as you are currently. You don't need to be like fixed or become better just because there's a new year.
Yep.
I feel like
We do not
companies
subscribe to resolutions really,
yeah.
here.
Yeah, I feel like companies just like really capitalize on like it's a new year, so now like you need to like change everything about yourself. So like get a gym membership, do this, do that. If you buy this, like your life will improve. And I used to in the past be like very overly ambitious with like New Year's resolutions, and I would like list out like 20 things that I was never going to be able to achieve in a year, and it was just completely unrealistic. And then it would make me feel really bad about myself when I obviously did not achieve them at the end of the year. So lately, I like to do New Year's intentions,
Mhm.
and I still keep it pretty broad, pretty short, but I like to sometimes just identify things that I'm working towards, like more broadly for myself. And it could be like career or personal or whatever, but usually for me, it's something uh, like, I want to continue working on figuring out what I want and then being able to actually express it
Yeah.
when I know what I want and not just keeping it to myself.
Yeah, because it's really great to, like, sit down and reflect every once in a while, and come up
Hmm.
with goals for yourself, whether it be at the beginning of the new year, on your birthday, every 6 months, every month, like, whenever you want to do that. I think the new year is a great time
Yeah.
to reflect, but I love the idea of just trying to set intentions that are, broad, and maybe sometimes people are like, "No, you should set like a realistic number." And I'm like, "Excuse my French, fuck the numbers." Like fuck trying to, have a habit tracker or like that kind of stuff where you're just like I believe in holding yourself accountable for things, but not to the extent of like my value is based off of whether or not I check off these resolutions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's like something that should be like super rigid or something that might make you feel bad about yourself. I will say I sometimes do use a habit tracker
I'm
and I
like, "Fuck
like
you, Rebecca, for your habit tracker." Just kidding.
I do use a habit tracker, but I use it for things like flossing. Like I've been
Listen,
told
that's
by my
probably a good
dentist
idea.
that I should floss more and I don't like to do that. But if I have my habit tracker and I like check it off each day, then I feel really good about myself because I'm like, look at
I should
me
probably
checking
do
it
that. I should
off.
put that in my bathroom because I also need to floss. All right. Listen, I don't hate the habit tracker, okay? It's fine. It's fine. I think
I
there's
just
like
feel like it's good to use it for like specific things or
small.
or if that is like a strategy that works well for you. But like for
Yeah,
me, feeling like the satisfaction of checking it off like actually motivates me to do the thing. But if it didn't and it just made me feel bad about myself, like then that's not a good tool for me to be using, you know?
totally. I like the idea of using it almost as like a reward system of like, I am
Yeah.
happy with myself because I checked off flossing 5 days
Right.
this week, rather than I'm upset with myself because I missed flossing twice this week.
Yeah, yeah,
Once
exactly.
again, it's all about the like intention behind it.
Right,
See what I did there?
exactly.
Okay, but What did you have more intentions? I didn't mean to cut you off mid-intention
No,
talking.
no, that's I mean, my big one is working on identifying what I want in pretty much all areas of my life and actually expressing it rather than feeling like it's a burden or it's too difficult to express it. That's like a lofty goal. So like that's just like a thing I'm continually working towards. Not like I'm gonna fully achieve it by, the end of this year. And then another intention of mine is just to wake up earlier in the mornings. And I'm not giving myself a specific time or a number of days I need to do that. I just generally want to feel like I capitalize a bit more on the morning time
Mhm.
than I do.
Love that. Um, I feel like I had some intentions. A lot of my intentions are already, like, fucked because we're, like, 9 days into the year, and I haven't done really much, because we're a COVID household. So, I do think it's just a good reminder that no matter how much you try to plan, no matter how many intentions you set, resolutions, if that's your thing, plans you make, like, life is messy and you never know what's gonna happen. So it's all about giving yourself some grace and rolling with whatever shit is thrown at you. So oh, and I already got a parking ticket. So literally this year can F off. Like, like bye. I read 2023 is gonna be my year, you guys. 2023. Um yeah, wow, that parking ticket really pissed me off yesterday. I was so mad. I mean, it's my own fault. It's literally my own fault, but what are you gonna do? But anywho, jokes aside, that I do have some intentions. One is to continue to work on being kinder to myself because that's something that I've always struggled with is just being kinder to myself. That's why I
Mhm.
don't do things like habit trackers for me
Yeah.
because I look at it in the negative way of, I missed flossing twice this week. I stuck,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't hit all 7 days. And some people are able to look at it more positively, and I salute you. I'm just not like that. So that's why I can't do those. Um, I'm trying to, yeah, just be kind to myself. Stop giving myself so many rules. Stop telling myself that if I didn't work out a certain number of times in a week, it wasn't a successful week. Like, who said that? Who made that rule? I'm sitting in my apartment yesterday. I literally didn't leave my apartment. And it's hard for me to be kind to myself about that, to give myself a break for the fact that I just sat and I read my book like a crazy person and wasn't super productive and didn't leave the apartment and just like had a relaxing day. It's hard for me to allow myself to do that. So just continuing to work on that. That's a priority for me. I want to continue to chase my career goals. I think this past year I've made moves to really invest time in thinking about what I want out of a career and what I'm interested in. And it's hard because the second you start trying to make moves or question what you want, it opens yourself up for rejection. And that's really challenging to deal with. Um, so I want to continue to push myself to go after those goals in a way that's not like, you have to do this or you've failed, but just not letting myself get down for not succeeding the first time, for
Mhm.
taking my time to keep going after it. And then my third one, which is just like more of a fun one, is just continuing to bake and keep
Yes.
baking things that are fun. I got to bake and cook over the holidays, and that was really fun. It was fun doing that, you know, with my family. It was something that I've been working on like it's a project. I've been baking a lot this past year, and this was the first time I felt like I got to like make things for my family. And
The results were delicious.
thank you so much. Um, it was just really fun and like challenging. And I realized it's an area. My stepmom actually pointed this out to me. She said that when I decide that I want to bake something, I just go into it with confidence. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna like make a pie. We're just gonna do it. What do we have? What ingredients do we need to get? Let's go. Like, let's get started. And I just kind of walk into it with confidence, which I would say I'm not great at doing that in other areas of my life. And so I think it's just like a good thing for me to have to continue to feel strong in that area of my life and let it seep into other areas. So that's my TED Talk. Thank you for listening about my intentions for 2022. But also, this year can literally go to hell. So, thank you.
Okay, well,
Sucks.
now we said our intentions for ourselves individually. We'll see how
Yes.
2022 allows those to play out for us.
Yeah, so
Not
far
looking
she's been a real bitch.
outlook not good, but we'll see. And then we also had some intentions for the podcast for Sisterly.
Also, I just want
Um,
a quick disclaimer that I'm very distracted because my cats are having a Lion King sort of fight behind me.
I
I've
thought
really
I
been
heard them earlier.
I'm already obsessed with my cats, as people probably know, but these past several days of it just being me and the cats, it's gotten to a different level. I'm going to make a quick aside before we get into our podcast intentions. I'm going to do a
Mhm.
little quick story time about my cats that no one asked for. So I have 2 cats, for those of you who don't know, Winnie and Wally. I want to make it clear, they're not brother and sister. I got them a year and a half apart. They're very much different cats,
Not genetically related.
not genetically related. So they have a lot of moments. And sometimes I'm like, they have moments where they fight like siblings. And sometimes they have moments where I'm like, are you lovers? And so I've gotten into this habit of sending, particularly one of my friends, because I think it gives her a laugh. I'll send her these like Snapchats of them being like siblings or lovers. She's like, we got to stop this. And I realized yesterday in my free time of not talking to anybody else, only having me, that I equate them to like the siblings in Twilight, you know, like a Jasper, Alice,
Oh,
Emmett, what's her name? What's
Rosalie.
Rosalie, where it's like they're siblings that have been adopted into the same household, but they're very much not genetically related and they're in love.
Just raising a
Someone
couple of Cullens over there.
someone help me.
You need to get out of the house, Olivia.
I'm gonna take a walk after this, you guys. I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well. Anyhow, hashtag siblings or lovers.
We should post a photo of them on the Instagram and people can vote.
You know what? I'm gonna do that, and only the real listeners will know what I'm
We'll know
talking
what it's
about when
about.
I say
Yeah.
hashtag siblings or lovers.
Yeah, we'll do a poll.
Watch us lose listeners. They're like, this girl's weird. I said to one of my friends that they're like the Lannisters, and they didn't like
Yeah.
that.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
So anyhow, podcast
Lannisters are genetically
intentions.
related.
Yeah, they're not genetically related. I want to make that clear. I adopted them from different shelters a year and a half apart. They're not siblings. But I adopted them both, so they're adopted siblings and lovers.
God.
Ooh, if you could see the face Rebecca's making at me right now, like, I can't believe I have a podcast with this girl. Can't choose your sister.
But if I could, I'd choose you.
Oh, how dare you. Anywho, let's move on to podcast intentions for 2022.
So for the coming year, we had just a few intentions that we thought of for Sisterly. One is to continue creating meaningful conversations about topics that we find interesting or impactful or that we hear from you guys you want to hear about. And I think we've done that so far in 2021. So hopefully we can continue that this coming year. We would love to start having guests every once in a while. So if there are people or topics that you want to hear about, let us know who you would like to hear from, who you think we should collaborate with. We'll see if we can get them.
Yeah, don't say like Adele, right? Because she's
Yeah.
not coming on the podcast. So just keep
Adele's
it
not coming.
realistic.
So just, yeah. Yeah, we're trying to be realistic here.
But even if you have people in your life that are like, this person's really interesting and, could contribute to like a really wonderful conversation, like, let us know. We would love to look outside of our own communities too, to have, meaningful conversations with anyone who would like to come on the podcast. And
Yeah,
to my
absolutely.
friends, I know you want to come on the podcast. Okay. I hear you.
Will, brother, we know
Yeah.
you want to be on the podcast. We'll
Well, we
see.
know. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know again that you wanna be on
Listen
the
to an
podcast.
episode or 2 first, and we'll see if you warrant
Yeah,
being on the
listen, if
pod.
you haven't listened to more than 30 seconds of one episode, like, I'm not putting you on the podcast, Will.
Called out. Okay.
Yeah,
And our last intention was just related, but reaching out to new people, reaching a new expanded audience beyond the people who already listen.
yeah. I think we're so grateful for the community of family and friends that we have that have supported us and continue to listen. I mean, that means the world. When we were at Christmas, we were talking to our cousins just about, like, not about the podcast, just about life or whatever, and they were like, "You talked about that on the podcast." And, like,
Yeah.
that obviously means the world when it's like they listen and they
Right. They
remember
like
what we
knew
say.
exactly what we said from an episode, and they were just like, "Yeah, we listened to every episode," and I was just like, "That is just so heartwarming."
But we want people other than our family. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
We want the family too, but we want to like figure out how to reach other people and hopefully bring them into our sisterly community too.
Yeah. So, like, share, subscribe, send to your friends, make them listen,
Yeah.
help
Yeah, feel
spread
free
the
to
good word.
send us around.
But yeah, those are kind of our intentions. I think, we don't have any specific, once again, like number goals or growth goals or anything. We just want to continue to positively impact the lives of the people who listen.
So, with that, thank you all so much for listening for the past few months and for coming with us into 2022. We are so glad to have you with us. Your feedback means so much to us. So, please feel free to keep letting us know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like us to talk about in the future, who you would like us to have on. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram at sisterlypod. Feel free to send us an email, sisterly.contact@gmail.com. And we look forward to the new year with you guys.
Yeah, we can't wait to chat with you next week on a new episode of Sisterly. Bye, everyone.